talk about the lessons we have learned under COVID. And these are personal lessons learned. I've learned some few. Nti mwayingira ekintu ate mwagamba Katonda najjawo ye yabaleeta. A channel that talks about education, that talks about skilling, is being self-aware, self-awareness. Make sure you're aware of your strength, of your weaknesses, of your emotions. A warm welcome, dear viewers, to this channel, Bisaso channel. A channel that talks about development, it talks about youth empowerment, it talks about marriage, education, and skilling. Thank you so much for your feedback. Kindly keep them coming. Those who normally send me mails on my Facebook account, my email account, kindly inbox me. Keep on. I would like those comments. Keep them coming. And especially on those topics you feel really we should discuss and talk about, especially in this COVID era. Now today, we are going to give a topic, but we are going to run 3 parts of this topic. There are going to be 3 different videos because of its vital importance, especially under this COVID era. It's about drugs. Drugs have taken very many of our people, very many musicians, young, energetic, prosperous, very rich musicians have died here and abroad. Very many people have died of drugs. Let it be cocaine, let it be marijuana, let it be what, let it be very many drugs have actually killed our people. Now, where does it all begin? Now, the first part is going to be about the causes. The second part will be about the effects of drugs, taking drugs. And the third, which will be the final one, will be on overcoming the problem of drugs. Now, where does it all begin? And I want parents to listen to me very well, because under this COVID time, this is so pertinent now, because many of the causes are around us in this COVID time and COVID era. Now, the first one I'm going to give you is why people take drugs is hunger. When somebody is hungry rather, especially this young, somebody does not have food, somebody does not have what to eat. Now there is food, this is food for them. So at the end of the day, somebody takes what? So hunger. So parents, make sure your children eat at the right time and they eat the right quantity of food, the right quantity at the right time. And make sure you supervise their eating, supervise their feeding. Don't just say, you give somebody money to do whatever. Somebody will just buy a donut. Now that is not food. This is just carbohydrates and sugar. Make sure your child takes carbohydrate, takes vitamin, takes proteins and so on. A balanced diet. Hunger is the first cause of what? Of people doing what? Drugs. The second one is boredom. Now what haven't we seen in this? If parents can be bored, if big people can be bored, they get stressed, they get depressed. Now, boredom is another factor why these young children take drugs. Somebody is there doing nothing. That's why it is important as a parent, or as somebody guardian, make sure you engage your child in doing some productive work. But somebody staying there doing nothing, sleeping and so on, at the end of the day, somebody starts taking what? Drugs. And remember how we are talking about development of character. Somebody starts, it is a thought first. Now, when it becomes a thought, the next time somebody talks about with a friend, peer pressure. Then the third one, somebody starts doing it. When you take an action, it will never be once. Before you know it, your child is a drug addict. It has become a habit. When it becomes a habit, certainly it defines somebody's character. And finally, destiny. That's why some people have died. Some people have died. You know, very good musicians who have died at a very tender age. So, hunger is 1, boredom is 2, and number 3 is fear. When somebody is under fear, either fearing what, there is a way that one can influence this person and say, ntya nnyo, ennaku zino nina byentya, naye nange simanyi kyentya, ndotalota n'ebintu, kanti nfuweti sigala. This is what happens, by the way. From these very simplistic statements, that fear, someone says, I think I am fearing, ndotalota ebintu. Then somebody says, let me just take whatever comes my way. And remember, it starts small. The thought, speech, action, habit, and finally, character. Now, the other one is, of course, peer pressure. Many of our children go to drugs. Not that they want, it's because of the peer pressure. Pressure of the youth, of friends, colleagues, those ones they stay with. That's why people say, you move like a duck, walk like a duck. Then you are becoming a duck. So the peer pressure is too much. That's why make sure you know the friends of your child. And make sure you also know the friends of your child, the friends, and the friends of those friends to your child. Because at the end of the day, those are the ones. Make sure you know their character. you know their behavior, you know their personality. Because peer pressure has done a lot in trying to promote what? Drugs. And then, of course, physical pain. Physical pain. Many of these children go for drugs simply because they are physically, something is paining them. Something is paining them. It could be the body, it could be heart, it could be what. When somebody has pain and does not have an answer, and they even fail to go to the doctor, to see somebody who can give them one. Somebody starts taking marijuana. The other day I was passing Kalori somewhere, and I saw women selling drugs, women selling cocaine, this mayirungi. It's very normal. During day, broad daylight, you can imagine, if that is not peer pressure, what is it now? And women, even girls, taking mayirungi. So we need to be very cautious and very well. Then the other is, of course, social isolation, loneliness. Make sure your child has a friend. Make sure your child is not so lonely, is not isolated. When you isolate this person and somebody stays in a bedroom, somebody stays in a room, somebody stays alone, chances are high somebody will develop a character. And make sure social media does not take up your child. Because if you are not a friend to your child, social media will become a friend to your child. If you are not a friend to your child, another bad group will become a friend to your what? To your child. And make sure social media doesn't take your friendship. Because at the end of the day, it is this social media that will start this one. It's the peer pressure that will start. So at the end of the day, social isolation is dangerous. Let somebody not stay alone. Because when you stay alone, bad thoughts will start entering your one. Then the other one is illness, even lack of recreation. It is important to make sure your child plays. Let them engage in either, let it be football, let it be volleyball, let it be simple games, in-house games. In-house games, they are important. First of all, they stimulate the brain. Then they work on the body. Then they work on the mind. Then they work on discipline. Then they work on self-control. So make sure your child does not stay without recreation. And you begin from these simple games at home. Because as somebody says they are doing nothing, the thought starts, the devil starts. So make sure your children play. Then of course, examination pressure. Examination pressure is so. Then lack of sleep. These days, many children, they sleep, they stay with their phones up to 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m. Now that is dangerous. Let your child sleep. Lack of sleep is a problem. And many people, they go for what? When somebody doesn't sleep, say, let me take this thing. It will make me sleep. This is not how it begins. Somebody starts with the Panadol. Because that can also be a drug. Somebody starts with Panadol. Somebody takes Panadol. Before you know it, it becomes addictive. Before you know it, the kidney gets a problem. Because these are chemicals. These are chemicals. Even the Panadol can be very dangerous to your child. Because the drug is not only one, but it can also become toxic. But Panadol can also be toxic. I know a person who had a kidney failure simply because of overtaking what drug. For any pain she was taking a drug. For any pain she was taking Panadol. Before she knew it, she had a problem with the kidney. Then paralysis. Now at the end of the dialysis. Then at the end of the day, she died of kidney what? Multiple organ failure. But simply because of what? Panadol. So even Panadol, that drug, can also be what? It's a drug addiction. Now at the end of the day, so watch whatever your child is taking. Which kind of medicine is it? These are chemicals. And they can be toxic. Then of course, feeling of shame. Especially these ones who don't have what? Self-esteem. Make sure you develop self-esteem. That feeling of pride, whether which tribe, whether what. The problem is this with these young children. First of all, many of them don't have self-esteem. And sometimes they are suffocated. Somebody suffocates them. So make sure your child does not have that feeling of shame, lack of self-esteem. These are all causes of drug addiction. Then of course, loss of dear one. Somebody losing a father, somebody losing a mother, somebody losing a dear one. Somebody getting so many deep thoughts. You think, eventually you say, let me take some cigarette. Because even somebody becoming a drug addict of, for instance, tobacco, it starts with one puff. It is just one like this. Even if somebody taking beer, it starts like one bottle like this. Then it becomes a word. Then it becomes a habit. Then it becomes character. And finally, it shapes your destiny. Then the other one is, of course, chronic pain. Then somebody says, I have to take Panadol. Without Panadol, I can't sleep. And it's a mindset. Without Panadol, I can't sleep. Without aspirin, they lack a Panadol, they lack a chip. Then at the end of the day, this people start myology. It is just something they started for fun. Then even violence. Violence is a problem. physical growth. These are all factors that can bring about drug addiction. But the most important thing to note is that they start small, and anything can become toxic, and anything can become a drug. Even Panadol, even aspirin, even marijuana, all these ones, mayirungi, cocaine, these are all drugs. And many of our people, but like we are saying, it starts small, it keeps on growing. Somebody starts with one puff, then talks about it, then takes an action. When you take an action, it becomes a habit. When it becomes a habit, it becomes your character. Then finally, before you know it, it shapes your destiny. And destiny is, of course, what we are going to see in the next episode when we talk to effects of drugs. Thank you so much.